So it's gray, it's not Ducati red. It doesn't have Desmo valves. It's a V4, and a service interval is 36,000 miles. Other than that, it's a Ducati. And we're gonna take this thing out and see what it's all about. Hey y'all, it's the Jed, and today we're on a 2022 Ducati Multistrada V4S. Okay, y'all, the Jed is on a Ducati. What do you think of that? I'll tell you what I think as soon as I get away from here without stalling or crashing. Alright, we'll do a little drive-by of all the bikes sitting out in front of Pro Italia, who were kind enough to let me take this Multistrada out. Friends, if I seem a little discombobulated, it's because I think this is the second time in my life I've ever been on a Ducati, and it's the first time in a long time I'm on something other than a BMW or a Harley Davidson. I'm excited to give this thing a try. I've heard more about this bike, I think, than any other from people who are currently on a BMW. I think this is the bike that makes BMW riders, particularly riders of GSs and GSAs, wonder about whether they should give something else a try. If you're like me, when you were growing up and you first heard about this exotic motorcycle called the Ducati, what came to mind were desmodromic valves, dry clutches, bright red paint jobs, and lots of service costs. And this is me getting used to this clutch and getting used to where the torque is on this bike, which is quite a bit different, and we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, this bike does not have Desmo valves. It is not bright red. It is really beautifully finished. The fit and finish on this bike, at least at first glance, is as nice as any BMW I've been on. And I'm not saying it's nicer, but there's no knocking the fit and finish of this bike. That was me raising the windscreen, which I would say blocks more than you'd think. I've got wind hitting me, but I'm not buffeting. So it's doing something right in terms of breaking up the wind that's coming in and around me. Anyway, I don't even know where to start about this bike. It is a blast being on it, I'll tell you that. And if the torque curve is to be believed, this is where it ought to excel. I've got 1.25 miles to find out, unfortunately, if I'm going to stick on the route that these guys gave me. I may have to do this route twice. This bike, this V4, is rated at 170 peak horsepower, and it's pretty high up in the curve. I'll put that on screen for you so you can take a look. Look at this. That is the blind spot indicator telling me that that car was in my blind spot. That is cool, and I tell you, there is no missing that. And that is on top of some really beautifully sculpted mirrors that are providing excellent coverage. I'm getting a tiny bit in of my shoulder in those mirrors, and I bet I could probably work on it and get rid of that. I'm a little late to the game reviewing this bike, I recognize, and there's some really good and really fun reviews of this on YouTube. I would highly recommend, I think there's a couple of different videos from the guys at 44 Teeth. In fact, I'll try to link them either in the description or I'll throw a link up on screen, one or the other. Also, just to complete the theme of a scattered video here, I'm going to throw in a tiny bit of a review of the gloves I'm wearing, and stick around to the end because I'm going to do a giveaway on them, and I'll tell you how to get in on that at the end of this video if you'd like. I recognize slightly worn gloves may not be the thing that folks are looking for, but I've worn them 3 times to get a sense of them before I review them. My hands do not sweat, and these are truly like new. So if you want a chance to get a free pair of Dyns gloves, then stick around to the end. So back to this bike. Unlike my recent comparisons of the RT and the GS and GSA, this is a totally different bike, and so I'm not going to split hairs to talk about the differences in how this bike is built, because it's entirely different. For one thing, it's a chain drive as opposed to a shaft drive. It's a V4 as opposed to a boxer twin. So it makes power an entirely different way. Totally different, just different bike, different frame. But it is a direct competitor to the GS or to the GSA, depending on how you look at it. Unfortunately, I am all on road in this demo, so I'm not going to be able to compare off-road prowess or capability. It is lighter. The fuel capacity is lower. It's a chain drive as opposed to a shaft drive. I'll let you decide which of those you'd rather be off-road on. And it you know, it makes power differently. It is, I'll tell you right off the bat, it's way less torquey down low, which is why I'm having a little bit of trouble with this clutch just from a stop. I'm sure I'd get used to that very quickly, but when you give this thing a twist, boy, do you feel that horsepower kicking in. It's fun. I'm not sure whether it's the way I want to ride, but it's really fun to feel. And I'm sure this thing is a wheelie monster if you're better at that than I am. Right in front of us, oh, I just hit the horn. Right in front of us is a very beautiful TFT display, really well laid out, I would argue. Not argue, I'd say. And very clear and easy to read. This bike has several modes that are easily accessed in motion. There's a mode button here on the left. I hit that and I can choose with a joystick between urban, enduro, touring, or sport. I'm in touring mode, and I'm gonna, I think, leave it there for now. Close throttle, it says, to make the change. There we go. Let's talk a little bit about comfort on this bike. It's got a very GS feel in terms of the geometry of the bike and the riding position. So my legs have plenty of room, more room than they do on the RT, but very similar feel to the GS or the GSA. Very upright. I'm not leaning forward at all. Nice wide bars, very reminiscent of the GS or the GSA. So a very comfortable bike. Not a huge windscreen, but the mechanism to raise and lower it is much easier than on the GS or the GSA. Instead of having a knob to twist as you do there, you literally just raise and lower, which is very nice. This TFT, like the new RT, has built-in navigation through your phone by use of a Ducati app that I don't have, and that the dealership did not walk me through today. No knock on them, there just wasn't a lot of time. I'm here on a Saturday morning and they were starting to get busy, and I didn't want to monopolize their time, so I'm not going to review the GPS capability. This also, like the RT, has adaptive cruise control. There's a radar in the front for that. I think there's a radar in the back that enables the blind spot indicators we talked about a minute ago. I'm not going to review that adaptive cruise because I'm just not getting enough time on the freeway here on this loop to throw it into cruise, and I'm not comfortable enough on this bike that I've never ridden to rely on cruise control, so apologies for that. If I had this bike all day, I would of course do that for you. Oh boy. So we're gonna do this loop one more time, and I will, now that I know where the exits are, I will open this thing up and we'll get a sense of where that power is. This bike has plenty of miles on it. It's already broken in, so I don't mind getting into the throttle a little bit here. This bike has a 19-inch front wheel, which is clearly there for off-road capability. This version of the bike has laced wheels as well, very similar to the BMWs. Got a quick shifter that has been butter smooth and worked flawlessly for me. Gosh darn it, there's just too much traffic for me to get into the power, but wow, I'm at 90 miles an hour and this thing is as steady as a rock, and you'd never believe you're going that fast. Seriously, it's a very confidence-inspiring ride on this thing. That is some deceptive power and deceptive speed. Let me see if I can get over. There's just not enough room here to do much. I apologize. Really pretty stretch of road here, but on this approved demo loop, I just can't get into the power on a bike that I'm not that familiar with. Nice view of Glendale, California off to the right. Here's where I'm going to come out on this demo This is an interesting alternative to a GS. It's lighter, it's faster, not necessarily quicker. It's got some interesting technology to get to the same point just via a different route than on a GS. Price wise, comparable. I'll throw that up on screen as well for you. It's a beautiful bike. I would be proud to own this thing, but I'm kind of a bike slut. I very rarely meet a motorcycle that I would toss out of bed. And this one's pretty sexy. It is, you know, it's not a sport bike, but it's got a Panigale derived V4 that moves really fast, and that has a quick shifter to help you do that. I would encourage you to go out and demo one of these. I'll tell you, it's by the way, I just was braking really hard there, and I'm glad I did, because there is Johnny Law. Well, I got a little bit of nosedive from these forks. It was not bad at all. It was very controlled. These are radio mounted Brembos in the front and a Brembo in the rear. They look pretty similar to the Brembos on the GS and the GSA in the US. I realize, or at least I think in Europe y'all still have the Hayes brakes. I think this seat might get old on a long tour. It's very narrow, which is nice for somebody with legs as short as mine, but there's not a ton of cushion there. Something to think about. Take a look at that if you're looking at this bike. This bike gets some bad press for fuel capacity. I think it's 5.5 gallons. I will throw that on screen as well, which is more than a GS, I believe, but not anything close to a GSA. So for long tours on highway, you may not. But boy, this thing gets into a turn remarkably quick, and then becomes remarkably stable in a straight line. It's hard for me to compare it to the GS because I'm so comfortable on a GS or a GSA that I'm tempted to say they turn in better, but I think that's probably a function of how familiar I am with those bikes. And I mean, like those bikes, the handling is really, really nice on this, generally speaking. Like, we're talking shades of gray. What I'm wondering now is, am I on the right loop back to the dealership or not? I'm a little lost up here in Glendale. It's a pretty Doberman. I think flashing means go. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with this clutch, and I think it may need a little bit of adjustment just in the clutch lever. It feels like a cable clutch to me. I'll have to find that out. So look, I wanted to follow up last week's RT GS comparison with something completely different. We've had a ton of BMW content on the channel, and I wanted to give you guys a look at the Ducati V4S. Go out and ride one of these, you know. It's so fun to try out different bikes. Dealers don't mind it. Typically, they're happy to show you, and I think they're more than happy to show a BMW rider what a Ducati can be. So take advantage of that. Don't take advantage of the dealer, but take advantage of the opportunity and get a taste for what's out there. There goes a Pikes Peak. So I am back in my dark and very messy garage. I'm enjoying a ice cold Topo Chico, and I promised y'all a review of the Dyns gloves and a giveaway. So that's what we're gonna do. So these are the Dyns gloves with Dyneema, and the good folks at Dyns sent me a pair to review. I had reviewed a pair of their jeans some time ago, which I like a lot. I actually own two pairs. One pair they gave me for review, and I bought the second pair. I really like those. These, you know, they're comfortable. They're a good size. These are a size large. They are not unattractive. I kind of like the denim look on there. And if you read about Dyneema, it's supposed to be incredibly abrasion resistant. However, I just find these kind of blah. They don't inspire a ton of confidence. The leather is very soft. I'm not sure how thick it is or how protective it is. They've got, you know, kind of generic looking knuckle protectors, a little bit of padding in the fingers. They've got some sort of protection on the heel and palm. They don't just inspire a ton of confidence from a quality perspective. Well, here, let me just show you. These are the Alpine Stars I normally wear. These have more leather coverage, and they just, I don't know how to describe it, but they feel better to me. So not the best effort from Dyns on these. They're perfectly comfortable. I have worn them, I'm guessing altogether 150 miles. My hands are not sweaty hands, so I promise you these look, they look like new. If you want them, all you got to do is leave a comment and say, I want them, or I want the gloves, or I want. Any of those three things will do. I've got a program that will pick a random comment from the video. A couple of rules, I guess. One is, please don't enter if you're not in the continental US. I apologize, but I don't have any way to mail them to you outside of the continental US. Also, this is not sponsored by Dyns. They were kind enough to give me these gloves for review, and I just want to pass along that kindness to one of you. It's also not sponsored by YouTube in any way. It's just me trying to do something nice for one of you. Nothing expected in return. Just leave the comment. So, I hope y'all had fun with this video today. I know it's not real technical on the Multistrada, but it's a seat of the pants review, and I hope you got something out of it. I sure had a lot of fun creating it, if you had fun too, I hope you will hit the like button. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, but you're enjoying the channel, consider subscribing. It helps in the algorithm, helps get the video out. Have a great day wherever you are. Have fun on your bike. Do it safely. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.